a few months later, we were getting ready for a vacation, and we were packing the night before, and divine providence sets in. I'm going to weigh my luggage with my handheld scale, and it breaks. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So I got a bright idea. I'm going to go get the bathroom scale, which I had been avoiding on purpose, brought it down to our living room. I figured I'd take my dry weight without the luggage, then weigh myself with the luggage, take the difference, and then voila, I get the luggage weight. Problem was, I stepped onto the scale without my luggage. I looked down and I see the largest number I had ever seen.
Joe, how did you find Carnivore?
So Dave, let me tell you, I didn't find Carnivore. Carnivore chased me, hunted me down. My wife constantly pointing Carnivore in my direction, giving me up. Carnivore found me, grabbed a hold of me, and my life has never been the same since. My journey started back when I was a young kid, elementary school, junior high. I was a very scrawny kid. Just to give you a picture, I graduated high school soaking wet at 135 pounds, and I'm 5'10", so I was very thin. Problem was, I was bullied and picked on during my junior high, elementary years, and even into early high school. I was fairly athletic, so that made my latter high school career tolerable. But I had this mentality that I developed in my childhood that bigger meant stronger, bigger meant better. It meant more attractive. And most importantly, it meant that I was not bullied. And so I tried to gain weight during my childhood. I tried so hard. I ate tons of junk food. I developed a love and an addiction to cans of soda. My parents, they owned a food truck. So we would go to carnivals and county fairs, and I'd access all summer to all the carnival food I'd ever wanted. And then in the off season, we had all the leftover food. So I had tons of soda available, and believe me, I drank a ton of it. The problem was I couldn't gain any weight for the life of me. And I remember thinking in my childhood years, do I have a tapeworm? I mean, what's going on here? Is it my metabolism's real high? And, these eating habits, developed in my childhood, they continued on to my 20s and even into my 30s. However, when I hit my 30s, something crazy happened. And, my metabolism and my activity slowed down, allowing my eating habits to catch up. Finally, in my mid-30s, something amazing happened. And that was I began to put on weight. And I welcome this. I welcome this with open arms. And I was happy seeing the scale go up each week. And, I had a set goal in mind, a specific number that I wanted to hit. And I didn't care if it was unhealthy. I didn't care what the repercussions were. And I was finally, putting on weight. That's all I was happy about. And so fast forward into my 40s, early 40s, I didn't change things. I still was eating the standard American diet, the standard Western diet. Only this time I noticed some things with my body changed, right? I was out of shape. I guess the best way to put it is my shape was round. Let me put it that way. I had swollen hands from arthritis, sciatic issues. I couldn't stand or sit for long periods of time. I was a very loud snorer. Probably had some undiagnosed obstructive sleep apnea or something. Low back pain. I was pre-diabetic, a whole host of issues. So the worst part is I thought I was okay. To me, this was just part of life. What happens when you get older? This is what we, make fun of friends and family with at their 40th parties, that it's all downhill from here. It was in early 2022, I'm 42 years old, that a realization set in. I was on my way to work and I was walking up my 2 flights of steps to my office. And when I got to the top of those steps, I got really winded, short of breath, to the point where I couldn't catch it. It wasn't just that I was out of shape, but I couldn't catch my breath, almost to the point of like that panic attack type mode. And this scared me. It lasted for like 5 to 10 seconds. And that really worried me. And I'm a registered nurse. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? Talked to my wife about it and said, hey, listen, I'm ready to make some changes. So my wife had been doing some research into intermittent fasting and a ketogenic lifestyle. And she starts telling me about ketosis and eating windows, fasting windows, autophagy. And I'm like, whoa, easy there. I want to make changes, but those are some pretty drastic changes. My wife is also a registered nurse, but these words were foreign to us as we're looking into them. So I gave every excuse in the book. These aren't sustainable. I love food too much. This is too restrictive. Is this even healthy? Why aren't we doing this in, medical practice then? And, my words to her were more power to you. If you want to do this, more power to you, not for me. Those were my words. A few months later, we were getting ready for a vacation, and we were packing the night before, and divine providence sets in. I'm going to weigh my luggage with my handheld scale, and it breaks. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So I got a bright idea. I'm going to go get the bathroom scale, which I had been avoiding on purpose, brought it down to our living room. I figured I'd take my dry weight without the luggage, then weigh myself with the luggage, take the difference, and then voila, I get the luggage weight. Problem was, I stepped onto the scale without my luggage. I look down and I see the largest number I had ever seen. It was a shocker. So I immediately took out my calculator on my phone, did the BMI calculation, and I had breached 30. I was in the category of obese. So as a registered nurse, I understand all of the risks that I just inherited by hitting that number. Cardiovascular risks, cerebrovascular risks, cancer risks, inflammation issues, all associated with obesity, but now all mine, now that I've hit this number. And this is where my journey, into making true changes really begins. I went on vacation, still ate the standard American diet, enjoyed my last hoorah, if you will. But when I came back, it was over. I said, I'm making these changes. So I started with intermittent fasting, started at a 16-8 protocol, basically eating all my food from 9 to 5. That proved to be very easy. So after about 3 days of that, I moved to 18-6. That was a little bit more difficult. I was going to eat from noon to 6. And believe me, at 11:59, I was at the microwave already heating up my food. And I'll never forget the first meal on 18-6. It was 3 burritos, and I just downed them as quick as possible. About 10 days into 18-6, I got busy at work. And lo and behold, I had to skip lunch. Didn't even realize it. And I was just on my way home, recalling the events of the day. And I realized I skipped breakfast and lunch. And to my surprise, I didn't die like I thought I would. And it was at that moment that I realized, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. So I decided after that moment to go to 1 meal a day, OMAD. I did OMAD for about a week. And then I took an assessment of what I was eating, because I was still eating the standard American diet, just doing IF. And I decided to overlay a ketogenic diet on it. And I did traditional keto at first, which was very manageable on just 1 meal. If you would have told me to do keto in the beginning while I was eating 3 meals plus 3 or 4 snacks, it would have been impossible. I would have given up. But given that I was on 1 meal, it was very easy. And, I did see some improvement. Some of my inflammation went away. I stopped snoring, but, it didn't get fully better, but definitely getting better. 4 months later into OMAD keto, I did drop from a BMI of almost 31 down to 23.3. So did that in fairly good time. I felt good. I felt healthy, but I didn't feel strong. Okay. That was what I noticed. And I noticed that over that 4 months of doing OMAD plus keto, I lost some lean muscle mass. And it was partly my fault. I didn't do resistance exercise during it. But like I said, I didn't feel strong. And I still had some inflammatory issues, still had the sciatic issues. So talked to my wife and told her where we're at. And she said, well, I've been studying this thing called carnivore. It's next level. I said, next level? I'm already doing intermittent fasting and keto. Now you want me to completely give up carbs? She says, just watch the videos, read the comments, which led me to the giants in the community, Ken Berry, Anthony Chafee, watching those videos, reading the comments, Dave Mack, who brings the comments to life with your interviews. And it was just amazing. You can't deny the anecdotal evidence that's out there. So over the course of 2023, I switched to mainly carnivore diet, some days ketovore, depending on whether I want vegetables or not. And this is when the magic happened. It was truly next level. I added weight training. During the course of about 8 months, I added about 10 pounds of lean muscle mass. And I got to the point where I feel was optimal, where I felt both healthy and strong. And I haven't felt this good since my early 20s. I can honestly say that. And then this is where all my issues completely dissipated. The inflammation in my hands, I no longer had to pry open my hands in the morning. The snoring completely gone, shortness of breath, thing of the past, sciatic issues gone. I play basketball with a bunch of 20-year-olds on a weekly basis, and I'm no longer on the sidelines huffing and puffing. I'm, bouncing around with them and having a good time. And fast forward to today, I'm in maintenance mode. I'm still doing intermittent fasting. I'm on a 24 protocol, meaning I fast for 20 hours and I eat all my food from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Mainly carnivore diet. Again, I still bounce over to ketovore whenever I want some broccoli or cauliflower. And I still exercise daily. I can say during my path to health, people took notice, family, friends, people at my church, and I've taken on some coaching. And I've had the pleasure of watching in real time people make, changes and see life-changing things happen in their life. They've hit milestones. They've gone back to their doctor. Their doctors have taken them off of blood pressure medication, diabetes medications. A few diabetics completely put diabetes in their rearview mirror. And I just love spreading the word. My wife and I both. We even started a YouTube channel. It's called Wellness Weigh-In, just looking to spread the word and teach people along the way. I know I learned a lot from, watching videos, listening to podcasts, and just hearing people's testimonies. It's so powerful, and I can't get enough of it, just hearing all of those success stories. And, being where I'm at today, I've hit my goal. And I'm sticking with it. It's allowed me to do a lot of fun things too. I do challenges. I push the limits of my will. And in the carnivore diet, I did 1 week where I ate nothing but 100 eggs throughout the whole week, just 15 eggs a day for 7 days, and just capturing my metrics before and after. I also finished up another challenge where I ate nothing but ground beef, 1 pound of ground beef daily for 7 days. And to have that level of control, if you will, over my cravings and over what I eat, and to realize it's not really a matter of skill, but of will, is just amazing seeing where I came from, from an addictive behavior and from where I was, my standpoint of thinking bigger was better and, just addicted to junk food. So, and I have you to thank for that. I have many people to thank for that. It's been a long journey, but a fun one. And, I'm glad to have found the carnivore diet and the community.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Now, one thing I have to follow up on off the bat. You said before when I was in my early 40s. So how old are you now?
So I think I'm still I'm probably mid 40s. I'm 44.
Okay. You look much younger than that. You're a very young looking 44-year-old.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Because when you said early 40s before, I was quite surprised. I was expecting, mid to late 30s. Well, again, congratulations. As a registered nurse, how does all this square with the training that you've had and what you hear day to day when you're working around patients and with doctors?
Yeah. There's no reconciliation between the two, with what you see in mainstream medication versus, or mainstream medicine versus, the carnivore community and, the carnivore diet and all of the benefits you hear from it. It's looked at as taboo, to be quite honest. I'm not at the bedside anymore, but I imagine the struggle would be real if I was still at the bedside, taking care of patients and seeing these ailments that I know, can be remedied by a diet modification towards carnivore. But yeah, they don't mix. They're contrary one to another. So it is a struggle in my mind, when I talk to family and friends, of course, I divulge to them all the things that I've learned. And, I've even taken them along the way on my journey. My sisters, they do it as well. And they're gung ho about it.
Wow. So you've had a lot of influence already. That's awesome. And your wife's doing this with you? Or is she keto or?
Yeah, so she likes to bounce between keto, intermittent fasting. We all practice intermittent fasting as a baseline pattern of eating, but she does bounce between a ketogenic diet, carnivore, and ketovore. And then, just, we celebrate. It seems like every month we have a reason to celebrate. We have such a large family. So we call those our carb cycling days or celebration days. And we come off it, we socialize, and we eat what is put in front of us. And then the next day, we're hard at it again.
You didn't mention your actual weight that you were
Oh,
when
sure.
you were. What was the weight you were when you stood on the scale that time when your BMI was 30 or above?
Yeah. So I was 212 and again around 5'9.5", 5'10". Yep. 212 and came down to a weight of around 163, 165. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. And you must feel like just lighter, fresher, kind of just full of energy, full of beans almost, right?
Oh yeah. That's one thing that you hit the nail on the head. The energy is just amazing. Um, During my 2022 when I went into ketogenic, and then early 2023 when I decided to switch carnivore, I was working all sorts of crazy hours. There was still residual COVID cases around, so I actually picked up at a facility, early morning to help on the floors and help, do tasks and whatnot. And so I would start my day at 3 a.m. I was on the floor ready to work at 3 a.m. I would do that till about 7 a.m. And then I would do my day job from 7 a.m. to about 4 p.m. And people were amazed at the energy I had. I was bouncing off the walls. And I attribute it to the carnivore diet and the ketogenic lifestyle. The energy is just amazing. And absolutely losing that much weight, definitely feel lighter on my feet. But at the same time, with the increased protein through the carnivore diet and then adding in resistance training, there's something to be said about the strength that you gain. And when physical with those guys in basketball, it's a good feeling to be able to bounce around with those guys and not be thrown off my feet as a 44-year-old guy trying to pretend he's 20 again.
When did you start to, so the arthritis was just in your hands, or was it like in most joints?
Yeah, it was just my hands, mainly my distal knuckles, the further knuckles there. I've inherited rheumatoid arthritis from my parents, and I get these nodules that appear on my knuckles. And those just slowly, they die hard. They slowly disappeared. I will tell you, when we do go on vacation and I do resume eating more carbohydrates than I would normally, it comes back fairly quick. It just be 3 or 4 days into the vacation and I can already feel the tightness. And by the end of the vacation, I can already see the nodules start to poke through my skin. And, it takes a solid several weeks to a couple months for them to dissipate away again. But yeah, mainly the arthritis in my hands is where I feel that. And then the low back pain, I haven't had that since, my first go at the ketogenic diet.
I'm thinking kind of from my perspective now, like, I've added back some vegetables in the past and some bits and pieces in the past just to see what happens. And the pain in my knee where I had the arthritis comes back almost instantly. And of course, it doesn't come back sharp. It's not like as bad as it was, but it comes back enough for me to go, oh, I remember this. And when it comes back, it's this reminder to me all the time, like, you cannot go back here. You cannot do this again. And do you feel like that's a good motivation for you almost when you have those family parties or those times when you can relax and you can feel it coming back? It's like, there is some value in those, apart from the social aspect of it. There is some value in those, like it's reinforcement that this cannot be a regular thing.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It's like that electrical fence where you have to test it from time to time. And like my dogs do at least. And, but actually, so I can tell you that I definitely experienced that. where, you get those symptoms back. And I tell my wife so many times, I am never doing that again. I don't care, what the party has it is at it. I'm not eating like that again. And then lo and behold, another party happens a month later and I end up eating like that again. But yeah, great reminders. I will tell you that there was one party, it was Thanksgiving. I was really I had a long period where I was into the carnivore diet, and I had not cheated at all for months leading up to it. It was Thanksgiving. And when I got there, I was going to allow myself to celebrate. What I allowed, though, was for myself to go overboard. And I hit the desserts before we hit dinner. And I started scarfing them down. And I was like, this is great. I'm going to get back at it, after Thanksgiving weekend. And I just downed it. I will tell you, when I got home that night, I was as sick as a dog. I mean, I had chills. I slept under 3 blankets with a hooded sweatshirt and sweatpants. And I couldn't move. I was freezing. I felt like I was sick. It almost reminded me of like a keto flu, only reversed because I had carbohydrates again. And it lasted for 2 days. And that was at least, something I've never done again. I'm not going overboard like that ever again. So even though I do allow myself some carbohydrates, enough to remind myself that, this is not a permanent, this is only temporary. This is not a permanent thing, me having these carbohydrates, and that was a good lesson learned, that I will not go overboard like that again.
And just imagining, when you're shivering under the blankets there, that's your body going, oh no, we're not back here, are we? So how are you eating during that? It's a 4-hour window you're eating in.
Yeah, 4-hour window. What I like to do is have 2 small meals during that 4-hour window. And I like to break it with some fats. So like avocado, if I'm doing ketovore. If I'm not, then I just go straight into like burger patties, or I like taco meat. So ground beef with some taco seasoning and some cheese with some sour cream on top. We love steaks, we love chicken wings, and we love salmon. And so, now I'm Filipino and I know you live in Japan. So one thing that was very difficult for me to give up was my rice, right? And I loved rice. But, like I told my family members who were interested in the carnivore diet, you just got to little by little, just start cutting it out, measuring, And so I don't eat any more rice at all. And so yeah, it's just a lot of ground beef, a lot of steaks. We love beef in our house.
So I wonder, like you mentioned, the rice thing between Japan and the Philippines. I wonder if it's the same within a Filipino culture as it is in Japanese culture. Like, you could wean yourself off rice and things like that, I suppose, in Japan. But Japanese culture would it would never permit other people in your family to accept it. They would always be saying to you, this is ridiculous, or, it just would be so difficult. I mean, do you have that kind of thing? Is there anyone in your family that's kind of always kind of looking down at you and going, no, this is something wrong with this?
Yeah, I do. In the sense of, rice is such a big part of the Asian culture. It's huge, it's like the American potato. But I had it every meal growing up. And even, once I had my own family, it's just something that we're just so used to. And, my mother, she's diabetic. And so I'm coaching her to give up that rice little by little. And you don't realize how much rice you're eating. And so I'm like, Mom, how much rice did you have? 1/4 cup. Did you measure? And she said, no, I didn't measure, and then lo and behold, she measures how much she actually puts on her plate. And it's like almost a full cup, And so, yeah, it's a huge part of our culture. It's hard to give up. It's hard for a Filipino to think of eating a meal without having rice, side by side with it. I was coaching one of my aunts, and, I told her, I said, just eat more entree. I'm not telling you to go hungry here. Just have more of the protein. Just put aside the rice. You can have as much of the protein as you want. It's the rice that's killing you. And, it's just a hard mental switch to make, is giving up the last bit of carbs, especially something that's so important to the culture.
Yeah, I'm drawing a line there between, like a 1/4 cup and actually, it's more than that. Drawing a line there to, when I used to be a drinker, like my wife would be, how much did you drink? And it was just like one glass. And it's like, why can't you stand up then? You know? All right, maybe it was a big glass. How does preparation go at home if you and your wife are eating pretty much the same kind of thing? But I guess if you're both registered nurses, you're not always at home at the same time.
So I work from home, which is a
Oh,
nice commodity. Yeah, I work from home. I'm no longer at the bedside. I've transitioned to another role, so I work from home. And we discuss our dinner plans. One question we ask each other at the beginning of the day is, "How are you eating today? What's your intermittent fasting window? You eating ketovore, carnivore? And we work together. We work together to prepare the meals. We have 4 kids. And so they're guilty by association. So they've inherited some of our healthy eating habits, but at the same time, they're kids. So we're not looking to strong arm them into any way of eating. We let them be kids and they eat out with their friends. But, I can say that they have some healthy eating habits that I didn't have as a kid. And I know that some of that is because it's rubbed off on them. One thing that they don't care for is soda. They don't drink any soda. A can of soda could sit in our fridge for a long time and none of them will touch it. So I'm very thankful for that. But, preparation goes, we work together, we communicate, and, it works out well.
Where does this go for you, do you think? Do you think you'll be carnivore for life or somewhere on the keto spectrum for life?
Absolutely. 100%. I feel too good, to come off of it. Like you said, the energy, the strength, the light on my feet, the issues all being, a thing of the past. And then the little reminders as you bring in carbs little by little that, the carbs aren't that great for you. So I don't see myself coming off of the ketogenic spectrum and, leaning more towards carnivore the rest of my life. As far as moving forward, my goal is to take as many people as I can with me. I try as much as I can to talk to people, talk to family members, and just spread the word about it, because it's within everybody's grasp. That's the best part of it. It's that this is a way where you can take health into your own hands and you can do your part. Without this, we're just rolling the dice. It's like 1 out of 2 become obese, 1 out of 10 or 11 become a type 2 diabetic, 1 out of 15 get an autoimmune disease, 1 out of 3, if you live long enough, get cancer. Those are the average odds for the average person that's even eating the average food. And so if you're not going to take your eating into your own hands, then that's what you have to look forward to. And, it takes a change in mindset to say, I've got to rise above that and eat different than the average person. And so I'm very thankful to have found this.
And I think the thing with taking the health into your own hands is it's very freeing, very empowering.
Yeah, totally, for sure. When I was addicted to junk food and soda and even caffeine, I've given up coffee. It's not something you have to do, but I've personally given up coffee because I felt bound to the coffee machine. If I didn't have a coffee by 11 o'clock, I had a migraine headache. And, again, addicted to soda and junk food. It's the absence of will. It's the absence of freedom, when you're bound to those things. And so, as you stated, it's very freeing to be able to have full control, full dominion, full control over what you can put in your mouth. It is freeing and it's wonderful.
So, tell us about your channel, how we can find you, and what kind of content you've got coming up.
So yeah, the channel's called Wellness Weigh-In. It's my channel that I'm using to encourage folks that that are either on the journey or thinking about the journey into the ketovore or carnivore diet or a ketogenic lifestyle. Just to pass on tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. And, I'm doing fun challenges too. Now that I've reached my goals, it's allowed me to, do those challenges I spoke of and then just show you the metrics. And if somebody wants to endeavor on that challenge, they can do it too. And perhaps see what, comes of it. But it just started it back in December. I'm having so much fun doing it. I'm doing it, I'm loving the process. Let me just put it that way. I'm loving the process of, encouraging people, putting up the videos and seeing the comments, seeing the success stories and hearing what people are doing and just, gleaning from the community as I look to give back to it.
Very nice. So I'll link to it in the show notes. And Joe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
The pleasure is all mine. Again, such an honor and pleasure to meet you, Dave.
So, sorry, just 1 second.
You're killing me, man.
So, Joe, what? Where's this come from? Like,